Well, I want to thank all of you for coming today. Got up this morning about 7 o'clock and I saw this real big orange ball in the sky. And I couldn't figure out what it was, and then it dawned on me, oh, that's the sun. I hadn't seen that for 2 months. Okay, so we're really lucky that it's not raining today. Before we get started, there's a couple folks that I want to thank, especially because of all the hard work that they put forward in getting this plaque, and I hope all of you had the opportunity to read the plaque. It's becoming known as the penny plaque, so you'll hear me refer to the penny plaque, and that's what I'm talking about. But there was a number of people that worked together to make that happen, and the first group of people that I want to recognize is the Larkspur Historical Society. Raise your hand if you're part of the Larkspur Historical Society. And Larry back here, anybody else? Thank you very much. What they did, their role in all this was, they're the ones who came up with the idea of doing a penny plaque. And they went to the county commissioners and asked the commissioners for their support. So this whole idea actually started with the Larkspur Historical Society. The other group, another group that I want to thank, and I want to apologize ahead of time because I'm really going to mispronounce their name, but it's the Rocky Mountain Chautauqua Questers. Is there anybody here from that?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Did I make a real mess out of your name? Okay. Yeah. These folks held a fundraising event over at the Three Eagles Ranch where they collected money in order to pay for part of the expense of putting up this plaque. So thank you very much again for your efforts. Okay. The third group, hello there. You want to speak? The third group that I want to thank is the Douglas County Commissioners for their support in making this happen. And today we have Commissioner Robert Partridge here from Douglas County representing all the commissioners. We want to thank you for your support on that. The last person I want to thank is Judy Hammer. Judy's here. Judy, raise your hand. Okay. Judy works at Douglas County in the Department of Planning and Development. Close enough? Okay. Judy was responsible for all the logistics for making this happen. Getting the sign purchased, getting it placed out here, even down to getting the grass mowed so it'd be a nice, comfortable place for everybody to walk around. So Judy was responsible for doing that, so let's give her a hand now. Okay. And obviously, I'm not a very good speaker when talking about her accomplishments because I'll be emotionally involved. So, Commissioner has offered to say some things on Penny's behalf. So, Commissioner, you want to come up?
Dennis, thank you so much, first of all. And Dennis, you really deserve a round of applause because it's, you know, the association we have to Penny is through you, no doubt, still. And I'm kind of a stranger. I've been a commissioner for 3 years now. Certainly I had a great opportunity to meet Penny and be the recipient of her fine work. You know, she was one of the founding members of the Historic Preservation Board from 1993 to 2008, and then she served with the Larkspur Historic Preservation Board. So I first want to say thank you so much for all of you being here, recognizing it, because I think many of you are very well familiar with Penny and her past, and being neighbors and friends. It's great to see you come out and support this. The Historic Preservation Board has certainly been very instrumental in keeping the history of Douglas County, and Penny was one of those. And I think, you know, you look at some people who really set the standard. Penny set the bar high for not only the Preservation Board at the time, but for everybody that's going to continue on. So it's a real privilege to see that. And I know 4 main properties that she was very instrumental in identifying and communicating to that, we the commissioners, certainly with the help of Judy and her Planning and Development Department, bringing this property forward. It was an easy thought, no-brainer, to be able to preserve this for us to all enjoy and see the history and understand it. And when you come down to this area, you know it's special, and I think that's what Penny saw, no doubt, in this area, in this spot. And it's great to see people come from the Springs, come from the northern part of the county, and really get an understanding what life was like that. back then. When you see the pictures, you get a real feel. It was a very sophisticated group of people. They were very hardworking, and I think when you understand who they are, who they were, you understand who Penny is and who Dennis is. So on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, we really appreciate you coming out, our dedication to Penny, the Penny plaque, and to Dennis, to you, and the Historic Preservation Board, the Larkspur Historical Society. We just appreciate you all, and we look forward to more properties coming forward, because it's a look in the past is no doubt a look into the future. So we thank you all, and say, Dennis, thank you again, and God bless to Penny.
Thank you, sir. Tucked away in the southeast part of Douglas County is a community called Spring Valley. It's a place where many of us call home. This is a very special place, not only for Douglas County, but actually for part of the development of Colorado. You look across the field out here with Pikes Peak in the background, and you do recognize the beauty of this area. And Larry Shoup from the Larkspur Historical Society is going to talk a little bit about the history of Spring Valley.
Thank you. Well, Commissioner Partridge said, this is a special place. In 1860, Joseph Franklin Guile, who came in on a covered wagon, and he settled here, he called this paradise. And if you look around, it was described by him as being as green as it is, thanks to the good Lord that we have gotten all the moisture we've gotten lately. But he came in and he was the first to furrow the land here in Spring Valley. And his first crop, turnips. And after he was here, there were a couple of brothers came through, Jacob and John Geiger, in 1864, July of 1864. They came through here on their way to Bent's Fort to deliver a couple of Confederate prisoners. And after they got here, people started coming. Names like Redmond, Shelton, and Spencer came into this area, and Spring Valley really started to grow. In 1870, we had, the records say that there was the Spring Valley School District number 3. And Harrison Buck's family and the Henry Gandy family are purportedly the ones that were instrumental in building this school. And that came after the school district. They were doing it in houses before then. In 1877, Daniel Holden, another resident, deeded the property to trustee Joseph Guile for the Spring Valley Cemetery that is up the road here on the right about a mile. It really started to grow, this whole area. And by 1874, there were 75 residents in this Spring Valley area. And in 78, before that, Jacob Geiger had the first meeting in the schoolhouse of the Divide Grange, and it was the number 53. And by 1884, with the 75 population, there was a store here. The Grange also had the post office, as well as a blacksmith shop. And then, in 98, a man by the name of Jesse Knowles added a sawmill. And then, Newton Alderman, this was big dairy country, started a cheese factory here. Now, we don't know how long, when exactly the cheese factory quit, but after it quit, well, they used it for a dance hall. And they had dances there. They called it Tipperary. Every week they would have a dance there. Now, interesting enough, this area got religion with a circuit rider by the name of John Dyer. And he came through in 70 and 71, and he had fire and brimstone sermons that people just shuddered by. But he was beloved, and it still didn't stop him from having the dances about every week. They also had a dance school here, as well as a one-horse theater. I'm not sure what a one-horse theater is, but that's the way the history books record it. Well, Spring Valley was a very big benefit to Douglas County and Colorado. It became a very strong agricultural district. There were small grains, there were beets, there were turnips, there were potatoes, and there was a lot of hay that was put up in this area. And that really contributed through even the World War II era. But at the end of the 40s, the agricultural area started to recede. And by the 60s, it started taking on the kind of landscape that you see here today. Obviously not as many homes as you see, but it still didn't change that much. And the one interesting thing about this particular area is that there are places in Spring Valley, and primarily on private land, that you can still see the ruts from the old Cherokee Trail. So I would certainly like to thank you for coming, and Penny would have loved this, and this plaque is a really great tribute to her. And thank you for coming, and welcome to Paradise.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more speaker here today that has a very unique perspective on what it was like to teach school here in a one-room schoolhouse. It turns out his great-grandfather was a teacher, and he taught in this building. This is Bob Easterly.
Thanks, Dennis. I'd like to add my welcome I didn't get to know Penny, but I am certainly indebted to her for all of the work she did on saving this great old schoolhouse. This being a schoolhouse, I think it's appropriate we have a test. How many of you out there are wondering who in the heck is this dude in the tie and what has he got to do with the school? Let's see a show of hands. I guess the rest of you have subscribed to the Jimmy Buffett song, Don't Know and Don't Care, right? Well, I don't personally have background with the school, but my family certainly did. About 10 years ago, I started to write a book about my great-grandfather, Lewis Henry Easterly. And doing the research, I went through some of his personal journals and found out that, yeah, he taught in the Spring Valley School. So I figured I better find out where this thing is. And in my research, I came across a dear lady by the name of Johanna Harden. You probably know her. And Johanna was awesome and gave me a list of the first teachers in Spring Valley School. This is from the state records. Not sure it's entirely correct because, as you know, some of the school records were lost in the fire at the courthouse. But as I got that list, I about fell over. It's a good thing I was sitting down because number one on the list was a J.P. Easterly. Okay, and number three was Lewis Easterly. Well, Lewis was a Civil War vet at the age of 8. He was a fifer. He was sent home early and became a teacher, and he was mentored by his cousin, James Porter Easterly, whom he followed to Colorado, came out here in 78. That's 1878, by the way, not 19. He began his teaching here in Colorado over at the Pring School. Any of you ever heard of the Pring School in Monument? Oh, outstanding. I'd like to talk to you guys. And then he went to the Pratt, later the Cherry School. He lived with the Pratts for a while. And then he went to Rich Valley, and he came here in 1879 in the fall. I'd like to read you, and that's why I got my notes, just a couple of paragraphs out of the book that I wrote about Lewis when he was here. He completed his commitment at Pratt's in early September and quickly secured another job at the Spring Valley School. But it also meant a change in his boarding arrangements. In mid-month, he moved to George Barker's place, which I think was right across the road over here. In mid-December, then he moved to Jesse Knowles' place, which I think was off over in this area. Of course, the school still stands today. It's been restored, and it includes the outhouse, the barn, coal shed, and of course the house itself. Water was brought into the school in 5 and 10 gallon containers from the various ranches, and like most one-room schoolhouses. In fact, how many of you went to one? Went to a one-room schoolhouse? Great education, I think. You know, it also served for church services, funerals, weddings, voting, dances, literary meetings. And his class size was about 30 students. But he seemed to be adjusting well, and 4 of his students were from the Barker family. As he looked around the room of the schoolhouse, and if you haven't all been in, you'll have a chance to do that. The windows are 20 feet by 30 feet. in the room, and there's 3 windows on each side. And the pot-bellied stove that was here then kept the poorly heated room. It was back in the left corner, close to the entry door. One of the things that I inherited in my quest for family information was some of his personal journals. And I'd like to share with you just three dates, and they were fairly short, so this is not going to go on forever. But the first date that was germane that I could find to Spring Valley was August 30th of 79. He said, I was at G.C. Pratt's, which was way up the road, and the girls were gone. I milked and made ready and went to Williamsville via Mr. J.F. Giles and ate dinner there and helped him fix his school register. And I applied for the Spring Valley School. Went on to Williamsville, came back to Spring Valley, P.O., drove the cows home, received a letter from Sister Becca. Weather was clear. The second day was October 6th. That was a hallmark day for him. Still 1879. I was at G.C. Pratt's. I helped milk and ate breakfast and went to my school at Spring Valley. I went by the P.O., wrote a card to John W. Higgins, don't know who that is. Went to my school and then over to Mr. Reynolds. Taught all day with 19 pupils. Went to the post office, received a letter from Father, came to Pratt's, clear, warm, and windy. Gee, imagine that, windy on this beach. One of the other real gems that I found was his class roll for October. And with your permission, I'm going to read the 29 names. You may be related to some or all, or you know about them all. And I have a few copies over there. If you want one, you're free to take them. Well, starting with Emma Adair, and I'll go as quickly as I can. Lizzie Adair, Hetty Barker, Annie Barker, Eva Barker, Maud Crawshaw, Maggie Fonder, Rosalie Fonder, Rubia Fonder, Minnie Guile, Rosa Guile, Estrella Gray, Rosa Hobbs, Clara Reynolds, Arthur Adair, Charlie Adair, Frank Barker, Byron Crawshaw, John Donegan, Hubert Donegan, John B. Fonder, James Gray, John Gray, John Hobbs, William Knowles, John Knowles, Homer Reynolds, and Fred Tart. The last day I want to read about is the day before Christmas, still in 79. I was at Jesse Knowles because he had moved in mid-December. John Donegan was here and his cousin Eugene Fonder, a couple of the students. I went to Maggie's and to school. I think Maggie's was the Barkers. Few at school, James Hobbs and Jesse Knowles came over and put the Christmas tree up. I put my treat for the school on it. We had a nice time at the tree. I received a silver napkin ring, and that must have cost a bunch of money in those days, given by Maggie Barker. Well, Lewis finished his term here in the spring, didn't have a job, and now had moved back with the Teachout family over at Monument. They had figured out that there's a way to make money hauling supplies over to Gunnison, which they were hoping was going to be the next Leadville, but it turned out to be a great supply point for the rest of the Gunnison Valley. As soon as great-granddad got there, he filed a homestead and never looked back. He filed north of town on Ohio Creek, and he got involved in ranching, and he was a big deal in a lot of areas over there, but he never left education, and that was the thing that I admired most. He was the secretary for the Fairview School, which was about a mile north of his homestead, and that original old schoolhouse, which he helped finish when he got there, is still standing as well. So there's 2 of them for him, and it's on the old homestead. So he was pretty active in that. He eventually became, because of his age, and he eventually got a discharge. He was in the Grand Army of the Republic, which was the fraternal organization for the Union veterans. And at the time he passed away in 43, a year before I was born, I missed him. He was the commander for Colorado and Wyoming. So he had a great life, always involved in education. And again, I'm just excited to walk through the building that he taught in for so long. Thank you very much for coming.
When we invited Bob to come out and speak on behalf of his great-grandfather and the school here. We didn't talk to him about dress code. And when he got out of his car over here, I saw this man with a white shirt and a tie get out of the car. And I thought, was it something I said? Okay. Anyway, this basically concludes the formal part of the program. And I really want you to put your hands together, appreciate the 3 speakers that we had today, and the folks that contributed to making this happen. Okay. If you haven't had a chance to see the penny plaque, please stop by and do so. We do have, the school building is open. However, there is a restriction on there that the Douglas County building engineers have placed. We can only have 5 people at a time in the building. So with that in mind, if you go into the school building, look around, but don't spend a whole lot of time in there because there's other people that be wanting to come in. There are some photographs also outside of the front door here. So again, we want to thank you very much for coming out, and I know Penny would really appreciate this. Thank you.